All right, great. Thank you so much, Vani. I hope everyone can hear me. There are a lot of people still joining in, I can see, but in the interest of time, we will start this webinar. This is about cognitive contact center, which can help you make your contact center more personal, more productive, and profitable. We will cover all these aspects, but before I do that, uh, let's do some introduction. Uh, my name is Deepak Bhatia. I'm a product specialist for contact center for Cisco in India. And then my co-panelist, I have Shailesh Chaurasia, who is the architecture lead of APJC for contact center. And then we also have Mudit Mathur, who is the manager and a technical leader for from our contact center global engineering BU. And he's based out of Bangalore, and he helps Cisco globally in terms of our contact center R&D and the new product management. So let's quickly see the agenda. Today's high-level agenda is all about what are the challenges that contact center face these days. We will cover some general use cases which most of the contact center face, which you can relate to. Then what is a cognitive contact center and how it can help you mitigate these challenges. And then what is Cisco's strategic focus? How we can utilize all these cognitive intelligence and help you build those super agents who can give a wow customer experience. And then we will also help you understand how you can utilize these artificial intelligent tools to build some automation in your contact center. For example, the conversational IVR, the chatbots, how you can utilize these AI tools to build your contact center to be more efficient. And then we will touch upon Cisco's architecture approach, which is pretty much an open architecture. We do have inbuilt NLU, in-house NLU, and to an extent speech capabilities, but we are pretty much open to the third-party integration. And after this, it will be followed with the Q&A. Do keep your questions coming on the chat. The co-panelist will help answer something on the chat, and we will also take some common questions during the end of the session. And for time, if some questions are unanswered, we will ensure that we get back to you personally and help you with all the right answers. So let's jump in. What are the challenges? As I said, you will relate to most of these challenges. The biggest challenge today is ultimately, what is the goal of a contact center today? It is just not about solving the customer query. The contact center today are craving to be a profit center, not just a cost center. And how do you do that? You have to enable a lot of tools within the contact center to get the right agent talk to the customer with the right kind of expertise, the right kind of tools, and all this is increases the complexity of the contact center. Then the customer has a choice of channel on which they want to interact with you. We're talking about mainly when we talk about contact center, we talk about voice. People try to reach you via calling your helpline number. They can chat with you on your website. They can send you an email. But then these channels are not limited. Today, consumers define these channels. I've seen most of my customers, they do customer service using chat over WhatsApp. It's a two-way communication. So the channels are unlimited these days. Then how you can put right amount of innovation on the contact center agent's desktop. You cannot overwhelm the agent with so much of data that rather than answering the customer query, he or she get distracted with so much of information and lose the control of the call. Then while all this happened, there are issues with agent productivity, where agent end up getting distracted and is not able to handle the call in the desired handling time. His AHT increases, and even in terms of the first call resolution, he's not able to do that. That kind of results into an agent turnover. A lot of agents get burnout because they don't have the right information, and they take a lot of heat from the customers by not being able to answer in a right way. So that increases the turnover, which in turn increases the cost for the contact centers, because then you have to rehire, you have to retrain. That increases the cost multifold. And then at the end, the IT productivity also gets hampered in a way, because business will ask for multiple platforms, multiple tools uh, that can help agents to handle the calls effectively. But how many tools you can integrate? How many? How much data you can put in the limited real estate of the agent desktop? And that is where the IT productivity also is questioned in today's contact center environment. So this pretty much covers most of the contact center challenges. There are many, but not limited to this. Now, how uh, this is important in terms of, as I said a little while earlier, that how it is important to go towards from a cost center to a profit center. There was a research which was done by a third party, and it was found that 46% of the consumers were ready to abandon the brand if their employees were not knowledgeable. If the contact center, which is kind of a gatekeeper to your enterprise, if the right agents are not handling the calls, then you end up losing almost 46% of the consumer, which is a very big churn rate. So how do technology can help? And what is cognitive contact center? So in terms of a definition, I'll just read it out. A cognitive contact center uses artificial intelligence to empower your agents with knowledge, data, context they need to have fast, accurate, and more personalized conversation with the customer. Now, I know we'll be talking about artificial intelligence in length in this webinar, but the fact of the matter is that today AI is not at the level that it can directly interact with your consumer and resolve their queries on their own. There has to be a human element in between. There has to be a contextual understanding where if a question is asked, it can be answered in multiple ways. A question can be asked in multiple ways. So how you can not just enable the AI, but give this AI as a tool to your agent so that they can provide in turn a wow factor in terms of customer experience to your consumers. Now, so the winning factor here is not just limit AI to itself, but use AI to augment your agents. How do we do that? Is we build an intelligence using the tools, the AI tools, the machine learning tools over a period of time, which are integrated across platforms, not just limited to the contact center, but also from various touch points which your consumer might have with your organization. And then using this intelligence, you try to build a context that why these, so not only that these consumers are approaching us, but you can answer why these consumers are approaching, what is the context of their question. So if you are able to put it all together and put the right information in front of the agent at the right time, you will be able to answer most of the queries of your on in the contact center. And this is how we build a cognitive contact center to have a very informed and meaningful discussions with your callers, with your consumers. This is how it all comes together. Let's go a little deep dive into it. Using this philosophy, Cisco's strategic focus is based on the three pillars. One is the experience transformation. Now, as I said, your customer touchpoints are not just limited to voice, email, chat. There are multiple other touchpoints. We, we recently acquired a company named CloudCherry, and we learned that they are churning almost 17 touch points of a consumer with an enterprise, putting it all together, using all that data, and converting into an awesome customer experience management portal. We have integrated it with our Cisco Contact Center desktop, which I will show you in the subsequent slide. The second pillar of our focus is the collaborative contact center. Now, agent, if they are working in silos, not every agent will have all the information available based on the experience. Some agents can be new, some agents can be old and experienced, and they can handle certain situations. So how you can bring the expertise, a combined expertise of all the agents, all the supervisors, and even of the enterprise employees who are not part of the contact center, but you can bring them within the contact center as and when required. So that's the collaboration that we're talking about. I will talk about the tools that we use in the subsequent slide. And third is using all this together. putting an AI strategy, putting a AI workflow together, how you can augment the brain of your agents and convert them from a regular agent to the super agents and the supervisors for that matter, who can take decisions on the fly that whether this campaign is going right or should we do any changes, rather than waiting for the executives to do a reactive review of a certain campaign. These things can be these decisions can be taken on the fly. So let's go a little deep down what I mean with by these three pillars. Experience transformation. So as I said, we recently acquired a company just a few months back named Cloud Cherry. Cloud Cherry do a lot of surveys uh, and uses most of the as I said 17 touch points across the customer journey and takes all this data, um, put it all together, and then build a context out of a relationship between a consumer and an enterprise. Now, if you look at the screen here, uh, the relationship not starts when the customer calls the call center. The relationship actually starts even through an advertisement on a TV or a print ad or an online display. How the customer onboarded itself onto this journey with your brand. And then after a careful consideration, there was a purchase, there was a service element that came into picture, and then there was expansion. But today, if you look at from a contact center window perspective, the view is very limited. The view is when the person first time calls the call center, and then there can be a post sales or a post relationship kind of journey mapping. But what happened earlier and what happened after that is something where we see this as an opportunity. That if an agent gets to know what was the experience of that customer visiting your website, was there any feedback that whether the information which they were trying to search on the website was not there, and that is the reason they are calling the contact center. And the agent itself says, "Sir, I see that you've been browsing my website. Let's say for a bank, there's a call, and the agent already knows that the customer was trying to pay, say, a bill on a bank's credit card bill on a bank's website, but due to some reasons he was not able to do it. An agent proactively bring that in the conversations. That's the kind of personal touch which we can bring using this customer interaction management module in the contact center. I'll give you another example just to help you understand the concept of this entire customer journey. Uh, Recently, we worked with one of leading retail outlet in India, and they come up with these uh, sales sales bonanza days that on this particular date you will get everything at 50% discount. So there's a lot of footfall that happens on these stores across the country. And there was a feedback mechanism on the store where people were filling surveys or talking to the employees there and filling the forms and even using an iPad to give their feedback. One of the feedback that came that while the collection, the apparel collection and the stuff that was kept on the sale day was fantastic, that was a good experience. The discounts were, people were really interested in buying those things. But what was not right was that the number of checkout counters in those stores. So the entire experience was amazing, but during the checkout, it was realized that the average wait time for the checkout line was almost 45 minutes, which kind of derailed the entire customer experience. Now, what does it matter to a contact center representative? So when the same customer, when one of the customers who gave a feedback over a digital channel through an email that while I was happy with everything, but your checkout experience was terrible. So when that person calls next time for any other thing on a contact center, this contact center agent, because of this module, will have an access to his previous experience, and he will straight away say that, sir, we see that you have not had a good experience during the checkout, and by the way, basis your feedback, the next time we have decided to put three more counters as checkout, so your checkout experience is also good. These kind of customer journey mapping is something which is which we are already doing using the Cloud Cherry product tool. Moving on, the next step, the second one that I talk about was the collaborative contact center. Now, again, in this, I'll give you an example. We did uh, uh, a research with one of our telecom clients in the US. Now, what was happening is that they were facing a lot of challenge in terms of agent attrition. There were a lot of repeated calls that they were getting for some basic queries because some agents were experienced, some agents were new. If the call goes to a new agent, then unnecessarily there were repeat calls. There was a lot of drop in terms of the postpaid customers, which was not good at all for the business. And then their net promoter score was also getting impacted. So so what they did was they created small pods, these cross-functional collaboration teams, where they put there's a team leader, there are agents, but they also put some specialists who have been with the organization for a while and who were dedicated to help these agents to address these calls. And after a while, after running this like a campaign, what was realized is that there was 48% decrease in agent attrition, which is a straightforward cost benefit because 48% agents, like 48 out of 100 agents, were retained, and there was no training cost, there was no additional, I would say, rehiring cost. So all this was saved. Another important parameter that you can see here is that there was a 71% decrease in transfer of calls, which means that agents who were aware, who were empowered by these specialists sitting on their back, they were able to answer all the calls. So there was no unnecessary transfer. And when the transfer happens, the customer experience gets impacted. So this was another important key parameter that came out of that study. And again, you can see 56% increase in the net promoter score. Now, this is what the executives crave for. They really want that how I can improve my customer experience. And if you're getting a 56% increase with one thing, then you can imagine how important it is. And that is where collaboration comes into picture. So considering this outcome of the study, we have tools within Cisco where we are able to help the agents to collaborate beyond the contact center within their organization. So it is essential for a contact center today. And the third point is putting all the data together, churning all the data, how you can utilize the artificial intelligence as an augmented brain of an agent. Like today, as a human being, I have, while I can learn a lot of things, but I still have a limited understanding. How quickly I can bubble up my memory and bring the relevant information out while interacting to a consumer. And this is where the artificial intelligence comes into play and assist the agent to become a super agent who is able to help uh, the customers with all their queries. Here again, I would like to take an example. I'm sure everybody would have ordered pizza by dialing the helpline. Now, in your experience, if you come across a good expert agent, they are very casual in terms of discussing with you. They even discuss the toppings. They even discuss, they are even, they can talk you into uh, upselling. Let's say you've ordered a fantastic pizza. Why don't you go ahead with some garlic bread or some cold drinks? Now, this is where the differentiator lies. As an enterprise, you would want all your agents to do that, but then the experience comes into picture, and that is where artificial intelligence as a tool can help the newest agent who has just joined the organization to be able to converse because it can suggest certain upsells and cross sell to the agent while on the call. I'll show you how it is done. And while you can do it from the agent side of it, you can use all these intelligence of the assistants that I'm talking about and build certain kind of automation in your contact center, whether it is an intelligent self-service for chatbots, for conversational bots, or you can do sentiment analysis. You can identify the key issues which are happening in the call, why there are repeat calls on a certain things, and how my agents are responding. Do I need to train them in terms of quality management? Uh, and what should be my next training be about? What kind of consistency I can bring into my contact center? These are the elements which can actually be available to you as an enterprise by going through this data using the AI tools. In fact, there can be real-time transcripts also. So as an agent, if I'm talking, my first foremost concern is that how I'm able to address your current problem. But how I'm able to log that case for the future calls or for a historical evidence, that is also something in question. So how real-time transcripts can be used and put and help agent to put across more accurate and faster wrap-up notes. So this is also important. Then, while all these things look little overwhelming in terms of how to bring it all together, the answer lies in your data only. Because today, your contact center is collecting data uh, from various things. The contact center is collecting data from voice. There is a lot of inbound calls that happens, a lot of outbound calls that you do. Then what is being discussed on these calls? Is the customer happy? Is the customer not happy? What was the context of that call? Now, one thing is that why, like people are calling you, but why they are calling you. So that's all that information is available in that data. This data is also available via emails. There's a lot of content on the written word through email and chat. People try to explain their issues in terms of their experiences with your brand, in terms of a particular situation. So again, if you just limit yourself only to address that query, then you're losing out big time on building an artificial intelligence for your future requirement. Chat is more of a real time. You have to be careful on what you write on the chat. So you have given very limited rights to the agents that this is what you can answer, but these are the things which you cannot answer. But again, you can clearly demarcate where the customer is happy, where the customer is not happy. Even sometimes agents know what to answer, but they're not able to because they're not sure of themselves whether they are supposed to write it or they're not supposed to write it. But then again, it's just dumb data which is just kept there unless you do something about it. Then one of the most important elements today in customer experience is social media. People have access to social media today, Facebook, Twitter, and they don't wait to first call your contact center and to resolve. Even for some trivial issues, we have seen sometimes with no fault of an organization, we have seen people just posting things on social media, and once it is done, the damage is done because it just goes from one follower to other, and so many the eyeballs just keep growing, and then uh, till the time you are able to address that situation, the damage is already done. But then again, it's a kind of data which can actually help you to mitigate these kind of problems in future. Uh, so social media is also that gives a lot of data to you. And then there are a lot of future channels available. Future channels like not future, essentially like future is right now. A lot of channels like WhatsApp. Like today, so in some of the installations, we have collaborated with WhatsApp, where WhatsApp act as a chat client, and there's a two-way communication with the Cisco contact center for their consumers. So instead of every time calling the call center and I have to wait because there are less number of agents, and even for a contact center, there are you have you cannot just keep adding the agents based on the call volumes. You have to do certain kind of automation. So all these channels also generate a lot of data. So that is also a part of data. Now you have this data. What you today do with this data is a big question mark. How you can utilize this data to build your artificial intelligence for the future. Today, if you see, most of the contact centers that utilize this data is for the reactive reporting. How many calls came in? What was how many calls were addressed under first call resolution? How many calls were transferred? Was the customer happy? Was the customer not happy? This is what is the best reporting which is possible today. And maybe in terms of volume also, how, the number of calls, so you can plan your workforce. But this is the best that most of the contact centers are doing today. What we can do is, like, once you start churning this data, you can start building a context out of this data. Obviously, with the tools that I just showed a little while back, you can start building a context that why these calls are coming in, what has changed. Because whenever a call comes in a contact center, something somewhere has gone wrong. I mean, this is the ideal thought process. if people are calling your contact center, something somewhere has gone wrong. So how you utilize that information beforehand and build a context out of it. Even further, more and more data which is churned over a period of time in your contact center, you can also start building suggestions. Like as I gave you an example of a new agent in a pizza industry, how this agent, while talking to a customer, can get suggestions from your systems automatically on the agent dashboard. How while I'm say talking to a client, let's say again in a say in a BFSI segment, what happens is that a regular call. I just wanted to. I'm not able to access my account. I have some issue with my password. So while the agent is addressing all of that, which is a very simple issue, agent can reset and based on the questions, he can verify the caller and then he can generate a new password, which is pretty much automated today. But how you seize this opportunity of that customer calling you, and but even if it's a new agent, how you can suggest certain things to the agent based on the historical data available for that particular caller. That this caller during this time spent this much amount of money on this credit card. So can you offer something as an upsell? Or how like this customer last time when we spoke to this customer, he was talking about a house loan. Is it a right time to talk about while I'm solving his password problem? Should I? You should check with this customer that he's still interested in a house loan. Now, these are the suggestive things which a system and an intelligent system can prompt the agent. Uh, doesn't matter if it's a new agent or an old agent. But then again, you have to keep it balanced. You have to keep it balanced in terms of how much information you are giving to the agent. You have to limit the touch points so that agent don't get distracted with so much of suggestions which are coming via system. So you have to balance it out. And fourth leg of this data management is the prediction. That how you can predict. Like some suppose there is a marketing campaign that has gone. Maybe there is a print ad in the front page of the newspaper today for your organization. So you can pretty much predict at a high level that, okay, I'm expecting that my number was displayed, so I'm expecting a spike into calls. But you predict with a reasonable understanding that what kind of calls you're expecting. So these kind of predictions can also be built in the system, and then accordingly you can, have your workforce planned, have your best agents planned, and this is how the data churning can help. And if you follow this loop multiple times, this kind of completes the entire customer journey and builds that knowledge within your contact center over a period of time. Now, what is Cisco's AI strategy for the contact center? Now, while, as I said, it is not just AI, but it is AI-enabled features for the agent. This is our philosophy today, which can help you build both on the agent experience side, so that agent is empowered, and also on the automation side. Now, as I said earlier, we do have some proprietary artificial intelligence technology available within Cisco. We acquired Voicea, which is a transcription, which provides phenomenal transcription services. It is tightly integrated with our WebEx today. We are also bringing it within the contact center. We also acquired MindMeld a while back, which provides NLU, natural language understanding capabilities. And by the way, MindMeld is now open source. So if any of you wants to use MindMeld engine to develop your own AI, you can just go ahead and do it. It is available on the website, on the MindMeld website. Now these things, though we understand that the intent is to build a very open architecture, and which we are pretty much open, but we believe to go deep with only a few partners rather than spreading too much too wide. We would want to go very deep into the verticalization of this. So we've recently partnered with Google, which helps us with the technologies like Conversational IVR, virtual assistant. So we use Google AI and Dialogflow technologies to bring those AI flavors into our customer interactions and the agent interactions. So this, but having said that, this is not limited just to Google or to Cisco. The architecture is pretty much open and can talk to various other engines available. Okay, for some reasons I can't. Okay, all right. So as I said, it's fairly an open architecture, uh, which means I'll just take you through a snippet of the approach, what kind of approach that we follow in terms of bringing the AI flavor in the contact center. So on the left-hand side, you can see that kind of digital tools which are available through which the callers interact with the contact center. And on the right-hand side, you will see what kind of gadgets today the agent has uh, in terms of the collaboration tools like WebEx Teams. There is a phone. There can be devices, and then there can be some customer relationship management tools available. Now, these things are there, which are pretty much standard today. But then there is a whole lot of tools available on artificial intelligence and machine learning, which brings conversational and automation feature within the context center. What are these tools? These can be a dialogue flow or the tools like Voicea, MindMeld, Cloud Cherry. These three are from Cisco, and even all the third-party tools and the bot frameworks which are available. Out of this, there is another layer which is a standard CRM. There is a knowledge base. There is a proper document management to get what agents wants during the call. So this things still remains there. But to bridge it all together, it's an open conversational engine based on the open API framework, which can talk to all these elements put together. To go a little deep dive, let's take an example of a conversational IVR. Now, in a conversational IVR, let me skip this slide. In fact, first want to show you why conversational IVR is important. So in a conversational IVR, so in a traditional IVR, sorry, the thing is that whether it's a bank, whether it's a retail store, there are so many options on the IVR today. Press 1 for language, press 2 for this, press 3 for this, and then there are sublegs of the IVR. And based on the call volumes, sometimes the organization practically they design it like that not every call has to go to an agent. Let's see how much self-service that we can do. It's pretty much standard across the telecom IVR because the average revenue per user is already struggling. So if they start answering all the calls via agent, they tend to lose revenue per user. So if you have used any telecom IVR recently, it is very difficult to end up talking to an agent unless you do at least some kind of self-service. And even I have experienced that certain banks, if you're not able to provide the right information, they just don't transfer your call to the agent. This is the traditional IVR experience problem. In fact, at one time, this was about 5 years back, I was consulting with one of the banks in India, and they had almost 11 options on an IVR. I mean, your touchpad has 10 options, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But they wanted to have 11th option that if you press one quickly, you can actually, have an 11th option. See the type of automation and the obsession that organization had not to transfer that call to the agent because they were burning a lot of cash to have so many agents. How to resolve this is again, the based on the experience that they had is that even today, while enterprises want to resolve this by on the IVR itself, but as a consumer, I'm already frustrated. I would want to press 0 or 9 and just talk to an operator, talk to an agent. I just want to bypass the menu. So even if you do all this kind of automation, it's very rare it results in some kind of efficiency without impacting the customer experience, which is an important parameter. So how do conversational IVR help? Now in conversational IVR, as you can see, it just makes the entire IVR horizontal. For a bank, it can say that welcome to so-and-so bank. Please tell us how we can help you. Rather than giving, please press 1 for this, please press 2 for this. Straight away, you ask a question, a general question, and using the natural language understanding capabilities, which has unlimited grammars, we can understand that what is the context of this call, what is being said, what is the spoken word, and then you analyze that spoken word and derive an intent out of it. That, okay, I call a bank and I say, I want to know my balance. Now, that pretty much, involves going back, dipping into the data, and giving that and reading that number out loud. It's a pretty straightforward thing. And at the same time, you can announce that you can also check, by the way, you should download our mobile app, and you can check this just by logging into the app. You don't need to call us. These kind of tasks can help reduce your calls going to an agent big time. And how do you do it? Is again based on the type of data that you have collected. What types of calls come to your contact center? Again, let's take a banking example. Now, it's a simple rule of 80-20. The automation shouldn't be done on all the 100% call reasons. It should be first we have to evaluate that why these calls are coming. And let's say 80% of the calls are coming for, let's say, top 10 reasons. So we focus on those top 10 reasons, automate the entire conversation using the speech recognition and text to speech and the intent analysis using the NLU engines at the back. And using that, you are able to churn at least 80% of your volumes. If successful, the call doesn't go to the agent. And even after the speech interaction, then you can still transfer the call to an agent unless the customer is satisfied. So this is how you can drive efficiencies, automating the routine task. I mean, if somebody calls a bank and asks for a loan, then all you want to ask on a speech IVR is what kind of loan, and straight away transfer that call to an agent, because that's like kind of a revenue. You don't want to really trouble the customer that who is ready to take loan or buy some new product, buy a credit, register for a new credit card. So this is how you have to design. The design is also important. Now, this is important because again, I'll take another example in the conversational IVR. I remember working with an airline customer a long time back, and they wanted to give a wow factor on their IVRs. Now, today, when you call an airline, you have to wait for an agent, and most of the information is already available digitally. So something might have gone really wrong. Maybe you have missed a flight. Maybe you want to postpone a flight. So you cannot be just hovering around the IVR. You really want to talk to somebody, which was driving the contact center agent numbers big time. So they said that we want to build an IVR for a very simple thing, for telling the time at which the flight is landing or whether it has landed and when it is going to depart. So this is a simple IVR because they wanted to build. Now, how important is the user interface? You will realize with this example. They, they didn't study the demographics, like how who are the people who are calling, what language they speak in. So they just build the IVR based on certain assumptions of 10 people sitting in a row. And they designed it by saying that for, please say, so there were only two choices in the IVR. Please say arrival or departure. Now, this is pretty much standard. Like for an airline, there are two options. Either it is an arrival or whether it is a departure. So the prompt is, listen carefully, the prompt is, please say arrival or departure. And 75% of the customers said arrival or departure. They didn't choose between arrival or departure per se. They just repeated what the IVR asked them to say, and that is where the UI fails. So it is really important that while you have an intent to deploy these tools, you have to work with the experienced partners. You have to work with the experienced team to design an effective UI, so that all this investment really converts into some kind of efficient tool and helps you contain cost. Now, conversational IVR was one of the feedbacks which was given to us as people want to really talk about it. So there is another slide on this. I've kept it. It's pretty simple. it is a layer that interacts with the Cisco CVP, which is a Cisco voice portal, Cisco IVR, using the VXML, and this can talk either to the cloud using, let's say, a Google Dialogflow, which can provide the natural language processing as well as the speech recognition and text-to-speech features, or you can have an on-prem ASR speech recognition and text-to-speech engine, which can interact with Cisco IVR on a MRCP protocol. So it's pretty straightforward. When you call and let's say, welcome to this bank, how we can help you, then whatever the customer says, that is captured, it is converted into text, it is put into the NLP engine, the context is derived out, the intent is derived out of it, and then using the text-to-speech engine, it is again then spoken back to the customers. Very simple, straightforward thing. But yes, natural language understanding is the key here because the same question can be asked in multiple ways. Same way with our partnership with Google, we are able to even provide the chat translation services by using the Google Translation on the cloud. Again, an API-based integration. Same way. This is how translated. So once what is being said, it goes to the Google Translation Cloud, and then it is translated and put across on the agent desktop that you can see on the right side of your screen. This is our Finis agent desktop at a high level, and this is how the translation works. And it can work both ways. Even agent can write something in English, and that can be converted into the regional language on the fly using the Google Translation. Now, this has some kind of delay in the chat. Once we are able to fix this delay, we can even upgrade the solution from a chat translation to a voice translation. We're working on it, and pretty soon this will be possible. So once the customer calls, it goes to the Google speech to text API on the fly, and then with the intent engine, the intent is derived, and going back, the cloud translates it, and then using the text to speech engine, again the call, the feedback goes back to the IVR, and it is using the text to speech. It is spoken on the IVR. It's pretty much straightforward. This is how the translation works. I see that we've already spent more than 40 minutes on this, only me talking. So I think let us see if there are, there's a lot of questions which I see which are there from a lot of attendees. I would open the mic. I will also welcome our co-panelist, Shailesh and Mudit, to pick any question out of that, and if we can answer. I see a lot of questions there, so I'm not pretty sure if we can answer all of them, but don't worry, we have taken a note of all these questions. We'll try to answer as much as possible in the time, whatever time is left, and then you can also reach us over the email, or we have taken note of your questions, and we'll try to answer that. So, Shailesh, would you want to take the questions?
Sure, Deepak. Thank you, team, for joining this call. And I see most of the questions are coming in this forum is primarily from the capability of the chatbot or the capability of the languages being supported. So just to kind of give you a brief view again on that, considering this is a slide, if this is being used for a conversational IVR, Cisco has productized the way of integrating it for using a CVP seamlessly with the Google Dialogflow. And why Google? Because Google has the reach across the region, across the continent, and has a various language support. And they have also added the CC AI functionality as part of their portfolio. So Cisco and Google has partnered together, and we have developed a native connection with Google, which can provide you the functionality of conversational IVR, which will talk about ASR, TTS, natural language understanding, sharing the intent, and many more, like sentiment analysis, so on and so forth. So that's the one question which I have seen mostly in the forum.
Mm-hmm.
And these capabilities are now being available as part of our latest release, which is 12.5. So if you want to integrate and understand and leverage these capabilities, you can definitely reach out to your local sales teams, and they can help you arrange for a demo or help you partner with you to do some of those POCs. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the most asked question. Mm, Other one which I can pick is primarily on if you want to arrange a or want to see a demo or want to arrange a POC. uh, I would suggest if you can reach out to your collaboration PSS or contact center PSS who will
Mm-hmm.
connect with the technical folks at the back end and try to do a demo for you. We do have a demo system in cloud, so it will be easier for us to do a demo. And for the specific requirement, the assist can engage with you to define if there's a call flow needs to be customized as per your requirement. So please do reach out to them.
Perfect. I see one question which is around speech analytics. That what is our take on speech analytics and how we can utilize speech analytics in a contact center for better and efficient conversation. Shailesh, you want to take that?
Sure, Deepak. So from the speech analytics, there are a few things what are already available as part of the contact center, just to give the view of it. Speech analytics are being provided by the recording vendors like Variant, like Calibrio, and so many more. So what they do is they record the call and in the real time they do a speech analytics. By doing that, what they do is they pick up the keywords and put the emotion in the sense of whether it is angry call or an happy call. So that is what they do. You can achieve the same from the Google Cloud as well in the terms of the speech analytics, wherein when the user is talking to the conversational IVR, you can pick up the tone, analyze the keywords, and pass it on that to the agent. So even when the customer is talking to IVR and waiting for him to get a transfer to the agent will come to know before even the call get transferred that what is the customer mood, what are the keywords we spoken. You can capture it in the variable so that he is better prepared to answer the call of the customer and handle in a better way.
Great. Thanks, Shailesh. Another question which is here is that the customer experience management module that I spoke about, which came via Cloud Cherry, is this only limited for Cisco contact center, or it can also integrate with a third party? So, Shailesh.
Your thought, Hector?
So yeah, so I think we do have a standalone product offering from the Cloud Cherry, which is now WebEx Experience Management. So it's not tightly bound with just contact center. If you want to leverage those capabilities from just the WXM and want to integrate with your own platform, definitely you can do that.
Okay, so it's pretty much open standard. So if you have any other contact center technology up and running, you can still utilize our Cloud Cherry WebEx Experience Management platform to map the entire customer journey, the entire from the acquisition of the customer to servicing the customer. So it's pretty much open. Thanks, Mudit, for that. I believe
If
there
I
are a
may
lot.
just add on that, Deepak.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so obviously what Mudit has said, standalone you can offer, and primarily with the Cisco solution, we have launched this product in 12.5, and going forward, and that's tightly integrated with the agent desktop. And going forward, we are gonna add more and more functionalities and feature on top of that, what is currently available, which can provide, and we are looking to provide a customer journey, to be honest with you, as part of this solution going forward. That's part of the roadmap at this moment.
Yeah, and the one thing is you don't need to do any customizations.
Yeah.
I mean, these gadgets are being delivered and available out of the box, right? So you can, with your contact center being there, and you have a an AI engine for the insights. If you have Cloud Cherry, you can directly go and integrate it together without doing any customization. So that comes out of the box with 12.5.
Deepak,
Perfect.
there is one more question, if I can take that. So I think the question is, a lot of customers will having the nuance on-prem, and they wanted to, and it's primarily for the ASR TTS feature, and they want to achieve a
Right.
conversational IVR. So my recommendation for them is continue using your nuance, because that is what the strength Cisco brings in. Our solution does not ask you to remove the nuance. What you can do is using the CVP 12.5, you can decide what function you want to nuance to do or what function you want Google to do.
Yeah.
Because please understand, whenever we are connecting with the Google, as per this slide, you are talking to the Google and paying them a fees to subscribe to their services. So the more the number of requests go to the Google, the more you will be paying to them. It's a subscription model. So customers who have invested in Nuance for various functions like ASR, TTS, or probably a voice biometric, those
Mm-hmm.
customers can continue to use those functions with the CVP 12.5. And for the additional function of conversation intent development or intent transaction from Google to Cisco, you could rely on the Google to give you that. So that's the solution what we have brought in the market.
Perfect. So what it essentially means is that if the customer has already invested in a speech recognition and a text-to-speech license from Nuance, and if they want to build a conversational IVR using, let's say, a Google NLU, then as Cisco, we can enable all of that. We can interact with Nuance for ASR and TTS, and we can interact with Google Cloud to provide the intent analysis NLU portion. Is that right?
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. Sounds good. Sounds good. And any more questions? I mean, I see there's a lot of questions on the architecture, which we will take separately with each of you who have raised these queries. Anything specific, Shailesh and Mudit, you want to address here?
So I will ask a question to Mudit because there's a question came in. So currently from the BU perspective, we have only Cisco offered solution which is coming in the form of voice here and going forward maybe MindMail. And from the conversation level perspective, it is Google. So I know we talked about the open strategy. So what's your take on that? Are we going forward, open it for, let's say, Microsoft bots or other bots available in the market?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it from the strategy point of view, right? So Google provides one of the best AI analytics engine today as of market, right? And it it gives you a lot of capabilities in terms of the different languages that they support, and that the power that Google brings in, right? So that was the whole idea to have an integrated platform or a service delivered through Google. Now, is it not necessarily required to have Google as the only analytics or NLU engine? You can still go ahead and do the integrations. I think there are a few white papers that have been published, which you can use and see where we cannot just stay with Google. We can go and integrate directly with the, let's say, IBM Watson, for example, or Azure, right? So those things are still available, but we partner together with Google to give an integrated experience where we can develop and have secure channel integrations with gRPC protocol and have that seamless integration with our on-prem portfolio. So that is also the whole reason of doing this. Again, I think there are plans to start qualifying as we go forward. We have to see how the mind share is in the field. If there are specific customers who have an interest and they're working with specific cloud vendors and they want to develop, definitely that is something we can consider going forward.
So
perfect.
Short answer, yes, Google is as of now qualified, and we are looking for more going forward to qualify based on the requirement, based on the demand in the market.
Yeah.
And based on the open architecture, there's a question that is it only Google Dialogflow certified, or can we integrate with Azure Bot, for example? So we can pretty much do that, and that's what we've been talking about. The architecture is fairly open, so it is possible to integrate the third party through the Cisco open architecture. Then.
So there's another question on the use cases. So maybe I think maybe we can come up with certain use cases when you guys are talking to the customers, like create some of the use cases as part of those demos that we can offer to the customer.
So I would request to again engage with your the team which is connecting with you from the collaboration perspective. Talk to them, bring your requirements. We will work with them to consider your use cases and probably provide you a better answer instead of a generic answer.
Perfect. Sounds good. I think that pretty much covers what we had in mind. And yes, there are a lot of questions, and we'll ensure we get back to all of you one by one. And do reach us out on the email. There's an email which is given on the chat window. Please note it down and write to us, and we'll be very happy to provide all the answers to you. So this is all from me. Anything from you and Shailesh and Mudit, or we shall wrap it from here.
No, I'm good. Thanks, Deepak.
Thanks, Deepak.
Yeah, thanks, Deepak, Mudit, and Shailesh. Thanks, everybody, for joining the session.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.